Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into some pretty interesting ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it all has to do with Nikola Tesla,
Cool.
but we're going way beyond his inventions.
Okay.
So we've got this audio clip we're going to be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into Tesla's work with energy, frequency, and vibration,
I see.
and how all of that can be used for personal growth and well-being.
Interesting.
It's wild. It even has this testimonial from a guy, he calls himself Papa C, and he claims that this technique outlined in the clip completely changed his life.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Could Tesla's insights into the universe, hold the key to living a better life?
I'm ready to find out.
Me too. So before we get too deep into this, I think it's important to give a little bit of context about Tesla. I mean, obviously, he's known for his work with electricity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But what parts of his work are relevant to the ideas we're going to be talking about today?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Tesla wasn't just an inventor. He was a really deep thinker, a visionary. He
Yeah.
thought a lot about, the fundamental forces of the universe,
Yeah.
like electricity, magnetism, the nature of energy itself.
Okay.
And that's important because this source we're looking at, it kind of builds on these ideas, these core concepts, to propose that, everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies.
Okay, so let's break that down for a sec. Everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
That might sound a little, I don't know, out there to some people.
Yeah.
But you know how sometimes you walk into a room and you just feel a certain vibe,
Oh, yeah.
whether it's good or bad, almost like you can just sense the energy.
All the time.
Right.
Yeah. That's a great way to connect this to, everyday life. I mean, scientifically speaking, we know that on an atomic level, everything is constantly in motion. And that creates vibration. Now, whether those vibrations can be felt as, an energy field or a vibe, well, that's not really something science can explain yet.
Right. And that's what I find so interesting about this source. It claims that those vibrations, high or low, can actually impact our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like low vibrations are associated with, feeling drained, attracting negativity, feeling stuck. But high vibrations,
Vibrations.
that's where you get feelings of positivity, confidence, and it can even attract good things into your life.
Oh, interesting. So that kind of aligns with the law of attraction,
Yeah.
which has become a really popular idea.
Totally.
It basically suggests that your thoughts and feelings can influence what happens to you. But just to be clear, that's not scientifically proven. It's more of a philosophical idea.
Well, and that's where Papa C's story comes in.
Hmm.
So according to this audio, he was 67 at the time of the recording. He'd had, some challenges in his life. But he claims that after trying this Tesla-inspired technique from the audio, he experienced this massive shift.
Yeah.
Better sleep, more energy, his relationships got better, he felt more confident.
Hmm.
Pretty relatable stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want all of that?
I know, I would.
So what is this technique exactly?
Well,
The audio describes it as focusing on your heart, visualizing white light coming from it, and feeling your heartbeat kind of resonating with the universe.
to me, that sounds kind of like meditation or mindfulness practices.
Exactly.
Those have been proven to have a real positive effect on, your mental, physical health.
Yeah.
And the act of, focusing on your heart, that source of rhythm in life, it could be a way to, relax,
Mm-hmm.
de-stress,
Right.
which could lead to some of the benefits that Papa C talked about.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the source takes this concept a step further with this idea of resonance and manifestation.
Yeah.
Basically, it's claiming that if you, align your vibration to a certain frequency, you can attract things that you want.
That's an interesting claim.
Yeah, it is, right?
Well, let's break it down. In physics, resonance happens when an object vibrates at its natural frequency.
Okay.
And that can make the vibrations, way stronger. But applying that to personal growth, saying we can align our vibrations to get what we want, that's where things get a bit more speculative, I'd say.
Yeah. It's definitely something to think about, though.
Oh, sure.
So we've got Tesla's work on energy and frequency, then this idea that everything vibrates at different levels.
Yeah.
And that by raising your vibration, you can attract positivity. And then we have Papa C's story.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts so far?
Well, it's definitely a lot to take in, that's for sure.
It is.
The thing that comes to mind for me is, we need to be careful about confusing correlation with causation,
Oh, that's a good point.
especially with Papa C. I mean, his experience is compelling, but there could be a bunch of other factors involved, right?
Totally. It's easy to get caught up in a good story.
Right?
So I'm thinking maybe we need to look into some of the scientific and psychological stuff.
Yeah.
See if we can separate, like, fact from fiction a little bit more. What do you think?
I think it's time to bring a bit more, grounded analysis to the table.
I'm with you. Okay, so we've covered some pretty interesting stuff, but now I kind of want to go a little deeper.
Okay.
Like, are there any scientific or psychological connections to all of this?
Well, you mentioned earlier that you like to see the evidence, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a really smart approach to take with all this,
Yeah.
especially when we're dealing with concepts that, can seem a bit out there.
Right, right.
So one area where we might find some overlap is in the world of heart rate variability.
Okay, HRV.
Yeah. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it. I don't totally understand what it means, though.
Okay, so it measures the tiny variations in the time intervals between your heartbeats.
So it's not just about how fast or slow your heart is beating.
Right. It's more nuanced than that.
Mm-hmm.
These little fluctuations can actually tell us a lot about your nervous system's balance and how adaptable it is.
So it's like the rhythm and the variations in your heartbeat.
Exactly. And get this, higher HRV is usually associated with better stress resilience, better emotional regulation, and even better physical health overall.
Wow, okay. So the technique in the audio, the one with focusing on your heartbeat, could that influence HRV and lead to those positive outcomes?
It's possible, yeah. Worth thinking about at least. Studies have shown that things like meditation and deep breathing can actually increase HRV.
Okay.
And those also involve focusing on your breath and indirectly your heart. So even if this specific technique hasn't been scientifically validated yet, it might be working in a similar way.
I see. It's like we often underestimate the power of just tuning into our bodies, paying attention to those rhythms.
Totally.
But what about this idea of vibrating at a higher frequency to attract good things? Is there anything to that scientifically?
Well, not in the sense that we're literally emitting frequencies, like pulling things towards us, but there is this psychological concept called emotional contagion.
Emotional contagion. Okay, that sounds a little intense.
Haha. It's not as dramatic as it sounds.
Okay.
It basically means that emotions can kind of spread from person to person.
Okay.
Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who's super happy and enthusiastic?
Yeah.
And then you start feeling more upbeat too?
Oh, 100%. I can definitely relate to that. So you're saying good vibes are contagious.
Exactly. When we're giving off positive emotions, joy, gratitude, kindness, that kind of thing, it can actually influence the people around us.
Whoa. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that explains why it can be so draining to be around negative people, right?
Exactly. Their low vibe, so to speak, can bring you down.
Yeah.
And this is where being self-aware is really important.
Okay.
If we're more aware of our own emotional state, we can make an effort to be more positive. And that can make a difference, not just for us, but for the people around us, too.
Okay, so even if we ignore the more mystical stuff about vibrations, there's still a psychological basis for how, our inner world can affect what happens to us?
Absolutely.
This goes back to mindset, right?
100%. And this brings us back to Papa C and his story.
Yeah.
While we can't say for sure that the technique was the only reason for his changes, it's definitely possible that it helped shift his mindset and how he acted. And that could have led to all the good stuff he experienced.
Okay, so let's just pause for a second and try to summarize everything we've talked about. We started with Tesla's work on energy and frequency, this idea that everything vibrates, that we can attract good things by raising our vibration, and then Papa C's experience.
Oh, wait.
We also touched on some scientific and psychological connections like HRV and emotional contagion.
Yes.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think the next step is to look into this idea of manifestation. Is it really possible to attract things into your life just by thinking about them? What does science say about that?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical, but also really curious. What do you think?
Well, while there's no scientific proof that you can manifest material things just with your thoughts, there's a lot of research being done on the connection between the mind and body.
The mind-body connection, what does that mean exactly?
It means that our thoughts, emotions, and even our beliefs can actually have a measurable impact on our physical health and well-being.
Okay, so it's not just some abstract idea.
No, it's tangible. For example, chronic stress, which is mostly a mental and emotional state, can actually weaken your immune system.
Wow.
And on the flip side, positive emotions like gratitude have been linked to better cardiovascular health.
Okay, so our thoughts aren't just happening in our heads, they can actually affect our bodies. That's wild.
Yeah.
But how does that relate to manifesting things?
Good question. While manifesting a specific car or a dream house might be a stretch, the idea of creating a more positive and fulfilling life through intentional thinking and action, that's definitely something worth exploring.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Yeah.
So even if we don't buy into the magic of manifestation, focusing on positive emotions and taking action could lead to better experiences. It's like setting the stage for positive change by, like, changing our inner world.
Exactly. That aligns perfectly with the core principles of personal growth. Setting intentions, visualizing what you want, and then taking consistent action toward your goals, all of that plays a huge role in shaping our reality.
This makes me think about the placebo effect,
Yeah.
where people experience real improvements just because they believe they're receiving treatment, even if it's just a sugar pill.
Right.
The power of belief is amazing.
It really is. The placebo effect is a great example of how our beliefs can influence our physical health.
Right.
It's not that far-fetched to think that our beliefs can also impact our experiences and outcomes in life, too.
So, in a way, focusing on positive feelings like gratitude, like Papa C did, could be seen as a kind of internal placebo effect. Like it sets the stage for positive change by shifting our inner state.
That's a great analogy. And it really emphasizes the potential for self-directed change. We may not have control over everything that happens to us, but we can definitely influence our internal state and how we perceive and interact with the world.
This is so interesting. We've covered so much, from Tesla's work in vibrations to the power of positive thinking, HRV, emotional contagion, the placebo effect, and even self-fulfilling prophecies.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's also so empowering.
Definitely. And it all leads to a really important question for our listeners to consider.
Yeah.
Could focusing on positive emotions like gratitude and connection, regardless of what you believe about vibrations or manifestation, actually make a difference in your life?
Wow, that's a great question to think about. What do you think? Where do we go from here? Welcome back, everyone. We've been having such a fascinating conversation, exploring all these ideas about Tesla, vibrations, and the power of positive thinking. What are your main takeaways?
You know, what really stands out to me is how all these different ideas, like scientific principles, personal stories, philosophical concepts, they all seem to connect and offer a new way of thinking about how we might be able to influence our own reality.
Yeah, exactly. And before the break, we left everyone with a pretty big question to ponder. Could focusing on positive emotions, like gratitude and connection, actually change our lives for the better, even if we're not sure about this whole vibration and manifestation thing?
Right, like can we really think our way to a better reality?
Exactly. It's a big question.
It is, and researchers are actually trying to figure that out.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. And while we can't definitively say that just thinking positive thoughts will cause specific things to happen, there's more and more evidence showing a strong link between having a positive mindset and experiencing all sorts of benefits.
Okay, so even if we're not totally sold on the idea of, like, manifesting a winning lottery ticket just by thinking about it,
Right, right.
there are still real measurable benefits to being positive.
Exactly. There are studies that show things like gratitude journaling, being kind to others, even just focusing on the good things in your life. All that can lead to, more happiness, better sleep, less stress, and even a stronger immune system.
It's almost like you're taking care of yourself from the inside out.
Yeah, I like that.
Reminds me of that quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Oh, that's a good one.
Maybe it's not about attracting things from outside of ourselves, but more about shifting how we see things so we can appreciate the good that's already there.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. And it highlights how connected our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions really are. When we feel grateful, we start noticing more positive things, even when things are tough. It's not about ignoring the bad stuff, but more about choosing what we focus on.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. And it also makes me think about self-fulfilling prophecies.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, if you believe you can do something, you're more likely to actually take steps to make it happen, right? But if you're always thinking negative thoughts, it's like you're setting yourself up for failure. It's like we're almost programming our own reality.
Absolutely. What we believe shapes what we do, and what we do shapes our reality. So, believing in yourself and focusing on what's possible instead of what's holding you back,
Yeah.
that can be super powerful.
So maybe the biggest lesson here isn't about trying to control the universe with our thoughts or learning some secret technique. Maybe it's more about taking responsibility for how we feel, recognizing that our thoughts and emotions are powerful, and making an effort to be more positive and grateful, knowing that it can actually make a difference.
I love that. It's about realizing that we have a choice in how we see the world and how we react to the things that happen to us. We're not just like helpless bystanders. We actually have a role in creating our own experiences.
That is incredibly empowering.
It is.
Even if we don't totally get the science behind it all, just knowing that we have some control over our experiences through our thoughts and actions, it's inspiring and kind of freeing.
I couldn't agree more. It also shows how important it is to keep learning and exploring. There's always more to discover about how our minds work and how everything is connected.
Well, I think we've officially blown everyone's minds for one day.
Uh-huh.
We talked about Tesla's amazing work, the idea of vibrations, the power of positive thinking, heart rate variability, emotional contagion, even self-fulfilling prophecies. It's been quite a deep dive.
It really has. But it doesn't have to stop here. I encourage everyone listening to keep exploring these ideas. Ask questions, do some research, try out different things and see what works for you.
Absolutely. And for anyone who's now thinking about the power of their own thoughts and emotions, here's something to think about. What if the most powerful technique is just being more loving, grateful, and connected? Maybe the key to a better life isn't out there somewhere, but inside of us, in the choices we make and the energy we put out into the world.
That's an incredible thought to leave everyone with. Until next time.